This is David Finzer broadcasting for the second hour from the Gibraltar of the Balkans, the historic city of Novi Sad along the banks of the beautiful Danube River here in Serbia. You can join our conversation by calling toll-free in the U.S. and Canada at 1-855-655-2121 or by Skype at ORN Live. Or you can email me at david@truthandliesradio.com. Well, according to the U.S. debt clock, the total U.S. national debt right now is $15,782,429,000,000, which is a debt per citizen of $50,304, or a debt per taxpayer, which shows you how many people are sucking off the national teat, of $138,718. Of course, the gross domestic product is less than the national debt. It's $15,205,595. But the total U.S. debt, when you add everything together, federal, state, etc., is a humongous $57,907,802,000,000, which means that the United States of America is bankrupt. And people just don't want to realize it. Now, we've had a gentleman holding on throughout most of the break, so I'm going to bring him on the air. Hello, Dave. How can I help you? Hello? Okay. I guess he's not there. Somebody
Dave,
else is trying to...
Dave?
Yes. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
The transfer seems to keep dropping, so I just called back a fourth time. I'm trying to talk to you.
Okay.
I have a question for you, banking question, if you will.
Okay.
I'm looking to employ your services. However, I've had quite the time trying to find decent processing at all. And I know we spoke before, and due diligence and all of that about making sure that all the funds are clean, of course. But one of the places that may be a potential for processing is Cyprus, but I know you have relationships there. But the other one is Lebanon. Is that a problem?
Is it a problem for me? No, it's not a problem for me. Lebanon is on some watch lists. And the other issue you may have with Lebanon now is Lebanon, in many cases, at least Lebanese banks, are making American citizens sign waivers of the bank secrecy laws. Mm-hmm. So, each processor, credit card processing is a weird business. Yeah. And the problem is also, for some reason, there's always too many brokers in the middle, etc. I mean, if I were you, I would pursue all angles. And anybody who's a real processor who's been approved by Visa, MasterCard, they're going to have due diligence standards that their money will meet the standards that we need to meet, or that any reasonable banking institution would need to meet. So as long as it's Visa, MasterCard, that due diligence is going to be good.
Okay.
Okay?
That's my primary thing. I appreciate it. I missed most of it, but I'll catch it on the rerun.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Now, we got a call that wasn't on subject, but that's okay. People call in as they do. We have a new correspondent that I'm introducing tonight, a very well-spoken, intelligent young man by the name of Michael Heaver, who is going to be my interlocutor on Thursdays for Europe, be our European correspondent. He served 2 terms as the first elected chairman of the United Kingdom Independence Party's Youth Wing, Young Independents. As you know, I'm a patron, very openly a patron and supporter of UKIP. And he's been featured on national television, written in a national newspaper, featured on local radio in the UK. And he says about himself, I argue for a society based on meritocracy, equality, and democracy. Well, that's not a bad start. I will probably at some point have an argument with him about equality versus freedom, but we're going to go to the news to start with. Welcome, Michael. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here, David. How are you?
I'm fine. It's nice to have a European voice because we're, the Western world is pretty much tied together. So what happens in Europe affects the United States. The international financial system's interlocked together. And so we want to, I think Americans need to think more. We have most an American audience, though not exclusively, about what's going on. So that's why I wanted to have a regular European correspondent, and I think you were a very good choice. So we're going to start with Greece, and the fat is in the fire, or the grease is in the fire, I guess. Greece's leftist Syriza party has accused Germany of terrorizing Greek voters into supporting pro-bailout parties in a repeat election held on Sunday, and claimed that Berlin and Brussels were bluffing in their threats to cut off emergency funds. A senior aide to leader Alexis, I can't pronounce these Greek names, defiantly claimed that Europe's dominant partners were not serious in their confrontation with Greece's so-called austerity measures. The head of European policy said a Greek exit from the euro would lead to the collapse of French and other banks exposed to Greek debt and the swift unraveling of the single currency. Gee, that would be too bad. So, Michael, you know a lot about this, what's going on in Greece. Why don't you fill us in on this group and this guy whose name I can't pronounce?
Okay, David. Well, what we're talking about here is a political party in Greece called Syriza. It's led by a young politician called Alexis Tsipras. Basically, this is the main party that's opposing the German and EU-led proposals for how Greece's economy is effectively going to be run. So the EU has said that it's going to lend 130 billion euros in a bailout to Greece to keep it afloat because it's stuck in this euro straitjacket. Now, this Syriza party is the main party that is opposing this. And it's opposing it, however, not on the grounds of freedom, not on the grounds of economic sanity that we believe in. This is not a party really that we should support because it's a party that opposes the what they call the memorandum from Berlin, the bailout from the EU, because it says that this the austerity and bringing down public finances and spending in Greece is the wrong thing. This Syriza party actually oppose the austerity arrangements because they want more public sector spending in Greece, believe it or not. They want expanded pensions in what is a very bloated public sector already in Greece. This is a very
Mike,
dangerous party.
I've got to cut you off because now we have to break for a commercial. This is David Finzer on Overseas Radio Network. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio on the Overseas Radio Network, and I'm here talking about Europe with our new European correspondent. On the line with us from London, Michael Heaver. And Mike, I had to interrupt you at the end of the last segment. You were talking about the 130 billion bailout, and I thought we'd let you finish your thought before we move on to the next subject.
Yeah, thanks, David. As I was saying, the Syriza party, basically they're opposing this bailout for Greece on the bizarre grounds that they want expanded pensions, they want a bigger public sector in Greece. They essentially want the government to have even more control there and spend even more money that it doesn't have there. This party is called the Coalition of the Radical Left, is basically how it's actually translated. That isn't a slur. That's how these people describe themselves. And what we're seeing in Greece now is this type of extremist party coming to the fore because the anger is such and the pain and suffering is such with Greek citizens that they're so angry at the euro and the EU and everything that's going on in their country that we're seeing this type of radicalism rise in that country, and it's a very dangerous thing. We're seeing a rerun of the Greek elections this Sunday because the previous election they've just had, no party got enough to form a coalition government with other parties. So this radical left, they're hoping to make gains this Sunday. How the Greek system works is the party that finishes first, as well as in getting the seats that it's already won by the amount of votes it gets, the first party gets an additional 50 bonus seats, which can help it form a government. And if Syriza gets in, My prediction is that Greece will leave the euro finally, and things really are going to start changing. But desperate times in Greece. We've got neo-Nazis this week in Greece as well. I mean, on the other side of the extreme coin, going around saying that because medical supplies are in such short supply, they're going to start going into hospitals and throwing people who aren't Greek out on the streets to die. I mean, this is serious stuff.
This is nice. First of all, it sounds like their electoral system is based on the collecting airline miles approach. And so, well, Greece has been volatile for a long time. I mean, they may have been the country that originated democracy, but in modern times, they've always been volatile. I mean, with coups, throwing out the monarchy, etc. And I mean, they were originally, if you don't remember because of your age, but the United States was the one that pushed Greece, pushed what was then the European Economic Community into letting Greece in to keep them from going to the communists, because they were surrounded in the Cold War days with the communists. So it's really a weird place anyway.
But yeah, I mean, but I tell you that the real sad thing is, David, I mean, luckily in the UK we have parties like UKIP and stuff. Greece doesn't have a sane party, and to be honest, most of Europe's the same. Greece does not have a sort of sane party that wants to cut government spending, that wants to exit the euro, but in an orderly way that isn't bordering on either radical socialism or radical fascism. It hasn't got that. It hasn't got that mainstream option there, and that's the sad thing, and that's the scary thing for the Greek people, I think, going forward.
Well, people tend, unfortunately, to get the government they deserve, which is a shame for the United States, and certainly is going to be a bigger shame for Greece. I guess we automatically flow into the next item on our list of discussion, which is that the European Central Bank is preparing for a Greek euro exit. European Commission officials confirmed on Tuesday that they have elements of contingency planning for a Greek exit from the single currency has been discussed by the Euro Working Group, the EWG. That's one more set of acronyms that we need to learn and then burn, I guess. European officials yesterday flat out admitted they were discussing rolling out a series of harsh capital controls across the continent, including bank withdrawal limits and closing down Europe's borderless Schengen area. Some of these measures have already been implemented sporadically. Customers of Italian bank BNI have been frozen out of their accounts. And starting May 31st, that happened. No ATM withdrawals, no bill payments, just locked out overnight. And in Greece, the government has taken to pulling funds directly out of its citizens' bank accounts. Anybody being suspected of being a tax cheat with a very, very loose interpretation at the sole discretion of the government is having their funds taken without so much as a postcard from the government. One of the Greek newspapers, again with a name I can't pronounce, says that withdrawals have hit up to 500 million euros per day. So what do we do? What's going to happen with currency controls and all these things falling apart?
Well, it's a complete and utter mess, David. And I mean, the real shocking thing is that article in which they said that up to 500 million euros per day is being withdrawn from Greek banks by its citizens. I looked today, that's gone up between Tuesday and today. It's gone up to 800 million euros a day. You know, so in the space of a couple of days, we've gone up by another 300 million euros per day being taken out of these banks. I think that's going to go up. I think especially after the Sunday election results, you're going to see it go perhaps over $1 billion a day. And at that point, you know, the euro it cannot last in Greece. The banks, the only thing they can do is they can take control and stop people taking their money out. This is actually legal under Article 65 of Europe's internal market rules, allowing essentially emergency measures to preserve public security in the event of a Greek euro exit. But again, you know, scary stuff. This is the EU taking full economic control of a country that's only in the mess it's in because it's been locked in for so long with these bailouts and this phony solutions that are being thrown at it to keep it within the euro. Because, of course, if Greece leaves the euro, that has dire consequences on these EU leaders who want the euro to survive because they believe in it for political reasons and not just economic reasons. And hey, we look at Spain today. Spain today's broken through the 7% on its bonds. That's the same rate at which Ireland and Portugal had to be bailed out. You know, they're now one notch above junk bond status in Spain now. So we look at Greece. It's in, I can't even imagine how bad things are going to get after Sunday. I think that's what you need to look at in terms of the figures, because I do think you'll see over €1 billion a day then being taken out of the banks, and pretty soon they're going to intervene and stop the Greek people accessing their money, which is a scary thought indeed.
Well, it seems to me the entire European project, as they call it, is based on the politicization of everything and basically trying to completely ignore all the rules of economics and all national and individual freedom.
But the thing with it, David, is if they base this on economics, it would never have happened. It couldn't have got off. And the thing that really annoys me now is, as these Greek people suffer, and this, people across Europe are suffering now, and they're going to suffer more, I'm afraid, as long as their country's in the euro and their politicians continue to make these bad calls because they've got so much of their own interests involved with it, because they've said how this would bring prosperity to their respective countries. The real problem is that people are suffering now. And then there's no clear solution. And the only people that are proposing a solution are people like Nigel Farage. He gave a very good speech in the European Parliament the other day. And it was just over 24 hours ago he gave that speech. And I tell you, David, I just looked on YouTube. That speech in which he said that the euro sanity must come to an end, that these countries must leave and restore their own national currencies, that's got over 125,000 hits already on YouTube.
Wow.
And this isn't just British people. This is people from Germany leaving messages on there, people from Greece, people from Italy, people from Spain saying, Nigel, we wish we had someone like you in our country, but they don't, unfortunately. And that's the real problem in these countries. For people that want to get out of this euro stupidity and they want to restore national currencies, there's just not that choice, and so it leads to extremism. And it's very worrying across Greece, and it's going to spread, unfortunately, to Spain, Italy, and possibly some other countries as well.
Wow. Well, that's just really scary, and of course, it's going to have an impact on the whole world financial system. And when the EU blows up, it's going to blow up everything, because the dollar, the pound, the euro are all too closely tied together because they're all fiat currencies. Well, now we're at the bottom of the hour already. It's gone so fast. It's exciting having Michael on with us. So we have to break for the news and a word from our sponsors, but Michael and I will be right back, so don't go away. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio on the Overseas Radio Network. We'll be right back.